Shinchan never asked for her number. He didn't need to. He'd already moved on before she finished saying no. There's a moment in the show, and if you've watched even 10 minutes of Shinchan, you've seen a version of this where he walks up to a woman at the supermarket. She's just trying to pick vegetables. He looks up at her, says something completely inappropriate with full confidence, and she immediately turns away in disgust. He watches her walk off. Then he turns to the next woman in the aisle and does it again. Same energy, same face, zero adjustment. No sulking. No internal monologue about what went wrong. He didn't lower his voice or change his posture for the second approach. The rejection from the first woman simply did not travel with him. That's the thing people watch and laugh at, but underneath the joke is something worth looking at closely. Most people experience rejection as information about their value. Someone says no, and the brain immediately starts running a calculation. What does this mean about me? Did I say the wrong thing? Am I not interesting enough? The rejection becomes evidence, and evidence stacks. Shinchan never runs that calculation. You can see this in how he talks to his teacher, Miss Matsuzaka. He compliments her constantly. She shuts him down constantly. He comes back the next day with the same energy. Not because he's forgotten. He remembers. He just doesn't store it as a wound. For him, rejection is not information about himself. It's just an outcome, like weather. You don't take rain personally. You don't spend 3 days analyzing why it rained on your picnic. It rained. You got wet. You go back inside. That's Shinchan after every rejection. Back inside. Reset. Ready again. There's a word for what this creates psychologically: low outcome attachment. He approaches with full commitment and full shamelessness, but he is not emotionally invested in the result. And here's the part most people miss. We think confidence means expecting good outcomes. Shinchan doesn't expect anything. He just acts. And because he isn't bracing for rejection, he also isn't performing ease. He's actually at ease. Think about the episode where he's at a party and he just walks up to every adult woman in the room one by one and tries the same line. Some ignore him, some laugh, some walk away. He experiences all of it with the same flat expression and the same willingness to try again. There's no scoreboard in his head. Most people walk into a social interaction secretly asking the other person to validate them. And people can feel that ask. Creates invisible pressure. Shinchan creates no pressure because he wants nothing from you. That, paradoxically, is what makes him disarming. Think about the last time you were interested in someone and suddenly became a slightly worse version of yourself. More careful with your words, more aware of your hands, more likely to laugh at things that weren't funny. That's what outcome attachment looks like in real life. You care about the result, so you start managing your behavior around the result. And the more you manage, the less natural you become. Shinchan never manages. Watch him with Nanako, the neighbor he's completely infatuated with. He doesn't try harder around her. He doesn't suddenly become smoother. He's exactly the same strange, shameless, oddly relaxed version of himself. And she finds him endearing, not despite the lack of effort to impress her. Because of it. Here's the blueprint. Step 1. Separate the action from the result. The approach is yours. The outcome isn't. Shinchan controls what he says and how he shows up. He doesn't try to control how people respond. Most people collapse these two things into one. Step 2. Treat rejection as data, not verdict. Every time Miss Matsuzaka shuts him down, Shinchan doesn't conclude anything permanent. He files it under not today and moves on. The rejection tells him about that moment. It tells him nothing about the next one. Step 3. Repeat without updating your self-image. This is the quiet one. Most people let rejections accumulate until they start approaching with an asterisk. A small internal disclaimer that says this probably won't work. Shinchan never updates that file. Every approach begins at 0. That's not stupidity. That's a kind of discipline most adults have completely forgotten. You probably won't wake up tomorrow with Shinchan's detachment. That's fine. But there's something worth sitting with here. The idea that your value isn't on the table every time you talk to someone. That a rejection is not a verdict. Shinchan is 5 years old and somehow already knows this. The rest of us spend years trying to get back there. This same pattern of detaching identity from outcome shows up in another character. But in that case, the detachment doesn't make them magnetic. It makes them unreachable. And the cost of that is much heavier than a few rejections at the supermarket. If that sounds familiar, stick around. Subscribe if you want to keep going.